And gentlemen, so it seemed that we had some sort of an issue with the stream. I'm not sure how much of that actually got in before one of the bigwigs here at BRL notified us that we're having an issue. As you can see, as they run right now, Get Me My Pipe is in provisional pole here at the Russian Grand Prix qualifying. Looks like the Racing Point will be on point for the pack as they go into turn one in the race. Nobody has had the pace to beat his lap time as it stands. MRC Loki came across the line about 3 minutes ago and set a 133.9, but it's 0.8 of a second slower than Get Me My Pipe's time. But here you see Mad Marlin. Mad Marlin set that 134 flat. I know on your screen right now it says softs, but he set that time on a set of mediums. So let's see if he can better his time and possibly put that Renault on pole. Wrathful has come through and he set a 134.2, so he doesn't quite have the pace that his teammate has had in the other Racing Point, but we'll see if that changes. Sexy has come across and he has set a 134.8. Big Mr. Brown, we see him out on track right now. Looks like he is on a hot lap as he goes past the Toro Rosso. Big Mr. Brown previously set a 134.8. but he may be able to do better than that. I think he can do better than that. Signs moving out of the way, looks for somebody else. He set a 134.8 on 2-lap-old mediums, if I'm not mistaken. Canada King has set a 135.7 or 135.1 on mediums, and SF1 Roads still has that decent time of a 135.3, and he's done 3 laps on those hards, which makes me think that he's probably going to run the alternative strategy. He's going to come in probably this lap or the next lap and bolt on a set of mediums to try to go to the end of qualifying and put on a really fast lap on mediums and run the alternate strategy. Start on the mediums, run on heavy fuel at the beginning, knowing that you're going to be a little slower, but sacrifice that for the speed that you'll have at the end of this race whenever you bolt on the soft compound tire. Ferrari Nut, are you joining us, or were you just letting us know what was going on? You are joining me? I'm not doing this by myself
right now, because I have nothing better to do right now.
You make me feel loved. I want to call you so many names, but we're on stream.
Just call me maybe be done with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Ferrari Nut, you all know him because he commentated with me in Tier 2 before I had to leave the commentary booth and jump onto the track. Ferrari Nut, pleasure to have you here with us tonight in Exia's absence. Good to have you here. What do you think we're going to see at tonight's Russian Grand Prix? I wasn't able to attend the Tier 2 Russian Grand Prix. I wasn't able to watch Tier 1 because we had that big endurance race, which our team actually won, by the way, in case anybody was wondering. BRL did take the win in class for LMPH. But what do you think is going to be happening on track today? Did we see a lot of guys running softs to mediums in Friday or in Saturday's race, or did we see a lot of guys going softs to hards?
Well, we kind of saw a split of the difference because, to be honest, in Split 2, we saw a lot of guys run just a standard soft to medium strategy, and it really worked out pretty much how you would expect. HRT just took off in the distance. He won by almost half a minute, so there really was never a contest for that. But in Split 1, oh my lord, did you see a strategic difference in the strategies. You had VSR Hydraulics and Alan Hugo and the two Mercedes running the alternate strategy from medium to soft, and they just came on like a freight train at the end. And VSR Hydraulics went from 6th to 1st at the end. Based on penalties. He was one of 2 drivers at the end who did not have penalties, including him and Chan of Sato.
Excuse me, Ferrari, now I'm going to break in real quick. Mad Marlin has done what we thought he might. He has gone out and beaten Get Me My Pipe's time. The Renault came across 0.3 faster than what the Racing Point did. So Mad Marlin has come out and shown his pace early. Will he have enough time to get back now with 4 minutes 30 seconds left to bolt on another fresh set of softs and try again and go even faster? And like me or not, blowing the idea out of the water that I had thought that he was going to go for the medium to soft strategy, he's also set a very good time on a set of soft compound tires. So sorry to interrupt you there, Ferrari.
All good, all good. But yeah, split one, we saw one of the probably most strategic races we have ever seen in BRL. We had 5 cars to take the penalty situation away at the end, capable of winning that race it just on the last lap. And we saw it was on track for 3rd place. We saw the race for the win happen between 3rd and 4th place because of penalties, and it was literally right behind the leaders, and it was just absolutely mind-boggling. If you go back and watch that stream, it was one of the most just amazing things you've ever seen. Alan dragged Rollins all the way up with the DRS to the back of that pack from 9 seconds back from the lead on the alternate strategy.
Well, we ride along with Mitch right now. Mitch seems to be one of the faster drivers here in Tier 3 as he is in the Red Bull, making his way down to the hard braking zone into Turn 1. A very easy chicane to get wrong. You'd look at it and think it's so wide that it'd be very easy to get right, but you can very easily overdo it and overshoot the exit and invalidate the lap. And this is another corner right here. I'm pretty sure you would agree with me, Ferrari Nut. That right-hander out of that long sweeping left really likes to catch you out. Turn 5 is very hard to get through and get it just right because you can eat up so much of the curb here and not take a penalty for it that you almost feel like you can eat all of it and you end up going over it and losing time.
Yeah, the track just does a lot of really awkward 90-degree and close to the corners like that, like turns 7 and 8. Very difficult to get right. A lot of people invalidated over there, as well as turn 9. Just a lot of the corners lend itself to that because it is built around the Olympic Park. It is almost a street circuit, but it is such a high-speed circuit. We remember a few years back here, we had a massive accident down at turn 2 on the first lap of the race, and that is just kind of the thing that this track lends itself to is stuff like that, because there are so many 90-degree corners at the end of very long straightaways. People will pile into each other without really meaning to, and it just kind of creates chaos around here, as well as the invalidations, which the penalties played a huge part in the race on Saturday night.
Yeah, and just because you bring that race up, I do remember that race. That was the race where it was you, who else was it? It was you
It was Ham, you, me, and someone else. I can't remember.
Was it Ard? Was it Ard? We all made it through.
No, Ard got taken out. Ard got taken out because I very specifically remember dodging his car in the middle of that schmozzle on the runoff at turn 2.
Well, what a race that was, though, because all of you, many of you at the front, I believe I started midfield with you, and we were on different strats, and you were on the soft compound at the beginning, whereas I was on the medium compound at the beginning, and I ran those mediums out, and I came out of the pit lane with like 8 or 9 to go on the soft compound on light fuel. And this is where I say the alternate strategy can really pay off if you can do it right. I was able to catch up, and it was what, with 1 to go, you and I and one other driver that was directly in front of you were fighting for the win for the final 2 sectors of the race. It was a 3-way battle. Now it's very easy to see how the strat can work and how the strat can fail. More times than none, we've seen that alternative strat fail in this game, but sometimes you luck out with just the right things, the right situations happening within a race, that the alternate strategy can really be a fun strategy to watch.
It really can here, just because of the low deck. It is so easy to make that work, but you have to run those softs all the way out. We saw on Saturday that Chandler and Beat ran those lap, I believe, 8 and 9, and that was kind of the point that they peaked as ER10 retires from the session there. Not sure what has happened there to the Ferrari driver.
Well, right now we've got the current, excuse me, we have the current possible pole sitter, provisionary pole in the Renault. As you can see going through the bottom of your screen now, he has just gone into turn 1. He has Get Me My Pipe in the racing point right behind him. He could possibly be getting a little bit of a tow from him, Ferrari. He might be a little too far back for it now, but this right now is the thing to watch. These 2 drivers have been the closest to in the times during practice and during qualifying so far, and now these will be their final laps. And it says, Get Me My Pipe. Why does Get Me My Pipe have a checkered flag next to him? Was he too late crossing the line?
He may have been too late crossing the line. His car is looking to be rather
It looks too racy
controlled
for
and
him to not be
computerized.
in it.
Exactly. It looks too calm and controlled.
Okay, yeah, I'm watching the throttle input. He's not in that car. However,
Yeah,
Mad Marlin, he is in his car, and this
And
lap, let's see what
SF1
he
Rhodes
does.
jumps to second, and then immediately knocks the wheel
Oh!
off the AI.
Oh my goodness. Did he light it up
right
on the
there is
final corner trying to get through there with too much speed? and he
No,
slammed
it was
into
an
the wall?
AI. It was an AI car. It was an AI car in front of him that was going slow, and he just slammed into the back of it.
Well, currently, here we have Mad Marlin in the Renault. He's going to cross the line, and he is going to better his time. A 1:32.1. That's going to be 7/10 faster than anybody else on the track, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to be able to beat him. Everybody else has crossed the line except for Canada King. It looks like he is sitting in the pit lane in the Williams on the mediums. So it looks like he's going to be starting. Yeah, do you think he's going to start on those mediums, though, since he's outside of the top 10, or do you think he's going to go back to the original strat?
I honestly don't know, because we saw Tom in split 2 do exactly the opposite. He qualified in 11th and started on the softs, and then drove his way up to almost to the front of the field. So it's a real toss-up as to what is going to be done outside of the top 10. Obviously, the top 10 are all going to be starting on the soft tire, but behind that is just it's anybody's guess, to be honest.
Well, here are your classifications after qualifying. Mad Marlin in the Renault will be on pole. He is your pole sitter for this weekend. He gets the pole award for a wonderful lap of a 1:32.1, 7/10 clear of his nearest competitor. Watch him to possibly pull away with this win if he doesn't make any mistakes. SF1 Rhodes will line up alongside him. Get Me My Pipe and Tofta White Meat will make up the second row, and like me or not, and Signs, a Toro Rosso lockout on row 3, so that's really good for them. Rounding out the top 10 are Loki, Wrathful, Big Mr. Brown, and Henchman. But look for the guys that are behind them. Let's see what tire they pick, what tire they decide to start on, as it looks very dark here in Sochi now. We had a very, very bright, very beautiful qualifying, and as you can see on your screens, it's very dark, so not sure if we're going to see some rain, possibly. Let me check in and see if anybody has put a weather report in the chat.
Well, while he does that, we did see one wet session between split 1 and split 2. I believe the split 1 qualifying session, if I'm remembering correctly, was in full wet conditions and intermediate conditions. And looks like we will have a wet race from what somebody is telling us there. And that created just a little bit of a mixed-up grid from what we might have seen in dry conditions. This, I don't think we'll see that much of a shake-up if it comes on later in the race here. But the rain always creates just absolute chaos here, because this place is like an ice rink when it rains. It's such a smooth surface, which is why the tires last so long here. There's just really no degradation to the tires at all.
And this track isn't like Brazil, where the whole track is cambered and angled very well and very steep in some spots to get the water to run off the track. At this track, it's up to the drivers. This track is very, very flat. There's almost no camber to it anywhere whatsoever at all. It's not like Zandvoort, where it's got a lot of camber that runs off that water off of the track. The drivers have to do all the track drying here. So another thing that I'm just now wondering, Ferrari Nut, is how many of these guys were on their wet setup, and how many guys didn't have a wet setup and just kind of forged one together real quick to try to make something happen. Like the guys up front with that one driver, our pole sitter, running a 1:32.1, 7/10 faster than anybody else on track. Could that be a sign that he set his car up for the dry and not for the wet?
It could be. Personally, I've never been a fan of just making a setup for the wet. I feel like if you are at the level that you have to be a BRL driver, period, you can kind of work around whatever setup you have and still be quick in the wet. Case in point, at Hungary, when we did the first race in F2, it was dry. Nobody really changed their setup, so we had our dry setups on, and you still will get the same. You'll still get the same top 3 or 4 drivers at the front. You'll see like for instance that situation. You'll see myself, Ham, and Chandler at the front in one form or another, and we were up until some things happened. And then for the second race, at the same thing. You saw at the end of the race, it was Ham, Chandler, and myself all at the front. So it really doesn't make a huge difference, but it can certainly make your life easier if you have a dedicated wet setup for a track, but it's not absolutely necessary. So he may have one, he may not.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. Mad Marlin leads them off of the grid place, excuse me, down into the first turn, making his way around the long sweeping left-hander. He's running rather fast for a warm-up lap. He's probably trying to get temperature into the brakes. At a track like this, it's very hard to get the tires up to temperature here in the first sector on a formation lap unless you're actually using the brakes to actually put the heat into the tires. As we see some of the guys in chat now, rain will hit soft runners laps 6 to 8. So not sure how accurate that weather forecast is, but we do thank you, Pure Wraith, for putting that in there. If you guys are watching the stream, go ahead and drop into the chat. Let us know. Give me a prediction. Do you think there will be a safety car? And let's see if what you say matches what Ferrari Nut says, as Mad Marlin, our pole sitter, has just left the session. That's not going to be good for his race at all. So let's hear from you, Ferrari Nut. Do you think that we'll see a safety car here just due to the fact that it is going to rain possibly within the first 10 laps of this 27-lap race?
Well, I think a lot of that depends upon where that rain falls, how good these guys are at coping with the changing conditions and things like that. It just depends upon who can hold the road. Usually when it starts to rain, it's best to just kind of back off and just try to make it to the point that you do need to switch tires to intermediates instead of trying to push, because other people are trying to, they're trying to gain as much as possible. Sometimes it can be to your benefit to just kind of take it easy. It's bitten me before, it's bitten everybody in here before at some point, trying to push too hard when the track's wet on slick tires. A lot of us like to think we are Fernando Alonso. Some of us can pull that off, some of us can't. But usually it just ends up being better to err on the side of caution with that.
Well, here we are. Everybody is on the grid, and we have 5 red lights lit up, and they are out, and away they go. Mad Marlin still not in the car, so SF1 Roads will most likely take the lead of this race down into turn 1 as he will outbreak the AI. But behind him, they are 5 wide as the Red Bull in the very back scurrying out of the way as Toff the Whitemeat into the McLaren makes the move on the Red Bull. But did the McLaren go off track there? We're not sure as chaos ensues behind them. Had a lot of cars off in that first chicane taking avoiding action. Hopefully none of them pick up a penalty for having to take avoiding action into that first chicane as SF1 Roads runs a little wide. And get me my pipe. Oh, and behind them, there's a huge
Mitch is around, as is ER10.
Yeah, we saw Mitch in that earlier shot in the wall. It looks like he might be stopped waiting on ER10, going very slowly. Big Mr. Brown has just made a move onto Canada King. He's gotten in front of him. Mad Marlin, unfortunate for our pole sitters, not in that Renault, so that AI is dropping down the field like a rock in a lake. Tough to Whitemeat, though, in the McLaren. How about him coming out of nowhere down that front straightaway and making a move all the way? If I'm not mistaken, he started in P4 and has made his way all the way into first before we even made it out of the first chicane. And now we have Get Me My Pipe all over the back of SF1 Roads. The front 3 really starting to pull away now. They have a 1.7 second gap back to 4th place, but 4th place all the way back to 8. You can basically cover it under a blanket.
Indeed, you could. Everybody's still right together at the end of the first lap here. Just a nice long train of cars. This place kind of lends
not
itself
just
to
made
that
a mistake. Like Me or Not made a mistake out of the final corner. That's going to give Wrathful a huge run down here into the first chicane. Let's see if Wrathful will try to pull this move off. He's there. He's looking for it, but he can't outbrake Like Me or Not. Like Me or Not known for being a very crafty driver when it comes to defending. He will give you a line that makes you think you can get by when in reality he's giving you the line that he doesn't want. And he stays in front of that racing point. Back up to the front, SF1 Rhodes still all over the back of Tofta Whitemead in the McLaren, but it looks like the racing point of Getting My Pipe must have had an issue or tried to make an overtake on SF1 Rhodes, and the overtake didn't work, so he has lost time to the Red Bull as they all three pull away from Loki in fourth place. Back here, Like Me or Not still has the racing point of Wrathful all over his gearbox, with Big Mr. Brown not far behind the racing point, while Big Mr. Brown brings Canada King along with him in the Williams. The other Williams in ninth place, Sexy, currently running ninth. He has Slingshot not too far behind him. Slingshot, also a very crafty driver. When he decides that he wants to make a move, he makes a move, and it's almost like Lewis Hamilton himself is inside of that Mercedes. It is so beautiful and so pristine, as Henchman has just made a pass on PPR Butters into the hard braking zone off of that long back straightaway, and DRS has just been enabled, as it looks like I think I just saw a few raindrops. It's raining. It is raining very, very lightly, but the rain has started here in Sochi. Back up to the front now, as it looks like they're going to battle for the lead into turn one. SF1 Rhodes not close enough to make that move stick. He tucks back in behind Tofta Whitemead in the McLaren, but those two fighting brings Get Me My Pipe right back up to them. But these three still pulling away from Loki in fourth by about a second a lap. We're now on lap 3, and they're over 3 seconds clear of the driver in fourth, with the driver in fourth currently being hounded by Like Me or Not, with Like Me or Not right behind him is Wrathful. So, goodness gracious. Can I go back to commentating Tier 2? This is getting hard. Tier 3 has a lot of action on the track. I wasn't ready for this. Sure. Somebody get me a Ricola. I'm going to need it. Sexy now starting to catch up to the back of Big Mr. Brown, but look at this. Wrathful now all over the back of the Toro Rosso. He's going to try to take the outside line, try to run around the outside into this corner, Like Me or Not, leaving him very little room there on exit. But Tofta Whitemead's going to get it done, but Like Me or Not comes back down on driver's left. He's going to have the preferred line going into the left-right chicane. And it's a beautiful move by Like Me or Not to give the space, allow the racing point to make the overtake, and then overtake the racing point again. It looks like the racing point beginning to struggle as he's spun out here, and he's going to run into that Sexy. He's run into Sexy now, as it looks, who was that? Big Mr. Brown has ducked into the pit lane. Now, as it seems, drivers are really starting to lose pace on this soft compound tire. We're going to look over, back up to the front, as SF1 Rhodes has made the pass on Tofta Whitemead. He has finally gotten past that McLaren, and Get Me My Pipe has come right back up to the both of them. MRC Loki has lost another second to these front three runners within the last lap, as we've had a retirement. We've had a retirement. ER10 Motorsport, not sure where he's had his accident at on crash or on track. Looks like he may have actually retired in the pit lane. So not sure what's going on there with Ferrari, but Big Mr. Brown has come back out of the pit lane now. He has emerged in 13th place. And he's put on a set of mediums Ferrari nut. Why not go with the inters? Why not go with a rain compound? Why go with the harder compound?
I don't really know. I think it's kind of just a situation where he really didn't have a better option there. Just not quite wet enough for those intermediate tires. His Henchman has switched on to the intermediates. I think those will burn up pretty quick, or they'll be very, very slow at this point, at least. But just it's not quite wet enough for those tires yet.
The battle up here at the front getting really, really sketchy now, as it looks like we're getting the Racing Point coming into pit lane. So the Racing Point making his way into pit lane, very, very slow, very long pit lane here at Sochi, but it looks like SF1 Rhodes might be able to get another run if DRS is enabled. I have not seen from the race director that they have disabled it. They have not disabled it. So SF1 Roads got the DRS advantage over the McLaren down the front straightaway, but it didn't help him much as we see more and more guys going into the pit lane now. Get me my pipe. He has come back out of pit lane on the inters.
Oh, and Rose has hit the wall. He's hit the wall on the exit of turn 4.
Oh, and he's got a lot of front wing damage. The left front end plate, a lot of the tertiary flaps are missing on the left front of that, oh goodness, of that Red Bull. It's really unfortunate for him. Back to the tire situation. Oh, and here we go. Canada King has looped it. May have done it by himself, may have had help, not sure, but Slingshot promoted to P4. Slingshot's still out here on this soft compound tire trying to make it work until he can get to a better spot where he feels he needs to be on a different tire, but he's showing good pace still, as it looks like Canada King running very wide. You can't tell if he has any damage. No, he does not. Looks like he's just overheated those tires, and now they're getting too cold to run in this weather. So let's see if the guys up here at the front, they are making their way through Sector 3 now. First and second. I know second place has got to head to the pit lane this time by. He's got to get that front wing repaired. And it looks like Tough to Whitemead is coming too.
I think they've decided enough's enough. It's time to jump onto those intermediate tires and start being able to chunk some water out of the way instead of sliding around on top of it.
Well, let's watch. So, Get Me My Pipe. Get Me My Pipe is now into Sector 3, and he is coming with a vengeance very, very quickly as the Williams in front of him has almost looped it. He has stayed out of the way. Canada King almost losing it. He is definitely going to have to go to pit lane, but Get Me My Pipe. Will he get out in front of the McLaren? We can see the McLaren is moving down pit lane now. It does not look like he's going to be able. No, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it. He's going to be too far back. We'll have to see. We'll ride on board with Get Me My Pipe, but he is not going to be close enough. But he is going to overtake SF1 Roads because SF1 Roads had to get that front wing repaired.
And Mad Marlin has now rejoined the race, and his AI is actually switching to intermediate tires. So he'll drop in on those intermediates, not having had to deal with anything right now. In 10th place, it looks like. And there he goes again. So, Mad Marlin having some big issues tonight as Henson picks up another 3 seconds.
Oh, and Mitch is off. Mitch has gone off again.
Damage to the front of that Red Bull, not having a good night for the second place in the championship here. He is just absolutely had forward luck. We do, in fact, have a VSC.
So virtual safety cars come out. We are now looking with these beautiful shots from the helicopter. Very beautiful shot there going through what I believe is going to be turn 8 and 9, maybe 9 and 10. Beautiful part of this track. Yeah, it's going to be turn 9 and 10 that we were getting those beautiful aerial shots from. Not sure what has brought out this VSC. Mitch has decided to retire the car in the pit lane, so hopefully there will not be any repercussions from that. Oh, it looks like we have PPR Butters is who I'm going to guess it is. Yeah, PPR Butters. He just tried to bring it through turn 4 as fast as he could, and he lost it. And I'm sure he got a big tank slapper going on through 4 and smashed that Alfa Romeo into that outside wall. He has no front wing left whatsoever. He's lucky he didn't lose any suspension during that issue, but he's going to get out and barely kiss the wall there.
Well, if it keeps on like, yeah, if he keeps on like he is, he won't be so lucky, but he definitely did get a nice big tank slapper and a spin on through turns 3 and 4 there, and as a result has no front wing on the front of that Alfa. So back to the action here. Give Me My Pipe closing up a few tenths on top of Whitemead after that virtual safety car. MRC Loki right up the back of the race on the other Alfa Romeo as Get Me My Pipe runs very wide off the exit of turn 5.
Yeah, and that's going to give MRC Loki the position. MRC Loki was behind him, and then Get Me My Pipe makes that mistake, and Loki says, all right, I see you. You can stay out there. I'll take that. Thank you very much. As Loki makes a small mistake there. This track changes so much whenever it gets wet. As Ferrari Nut and I were talking about earlier, Ferrari Nut and I have battled together on track. There's been times where you wouldn't have been able to catch us in the same party after a wet race, because it seemed like he and I were always fighting for the same small piece of real estate on the track at the same time. But here we are, years later.
There have been a few instances where we did not want to talk to each other after our race. Neither one of us will deny that.
But here we are commentating as we look at Taft of Whitney in the McLaren. Looks like he's dealing with quite a bit of understeer, Ferrari Nut. Would you agree? Watch him through the penultimate corner in this final corner. Looks like the front end of that McLaren is starting to push just a little bit, not having as much steering power in the front as he'd like. Let's look back through the field. MRC Loki has cleared Get Me My Pipe by over a second now. So Get Me My Pipe was one of the very fast drivers in the drive, but did he have that car set up gambling that there would be a lot more dry racing happening today than what we have had? And now in the wet, he's going to be slower. It is possible, like me or not, running in fourth is slowly eating into the lead of third place, as we now have a caution in Sector 1. I believe that's for PPR Butters almost coming to a stop on track to allow Taft of Whitney in the McLaren to get by him, getting those blue flags. Just looking back through the pack now, SF1 Rhodes in fifth in the Red Bull has the Racing Point of Wrathful all over the gearbox. These two have remained close to each other since they came out of the pit lane. Wrathful stopping at the exact same time SF1 Rhodes decided to. So they both come out, and it looks like Wrathful is beginning to catch the back of the Red Bull, but how long can he stay behind that Red Bull in that dirty air while it's raining before he has to make something happen, or he has to fall back to try to conserve the car to get to the end?
Sorry, I've dropped my controller a couple of times. I have had a couple of drinks tonight already. I was not planning on doing this, so by the time Maverick suggested it, I was already 2 margaritas and 2 beers deep in this. So if you'll excuse my discombobulatedness with my hands here a bit, I've dropped my controller and missed a bit there.
Well, really the only thing that you have missed, nothing has really changed on track within the past 3 minutes other than Wrathful and SF1 Rhodes having a lovely little battle here. SF1 Rhodes pulled out a little bit of time on the Racing Point of Wrathful that lap, but not much. Wrathful able to catch up to him a lot throughout Sector 2, but lost that time again through Sector 3. It would seem that Wrathful is just a little slower in Sector 1 and Sector 3, but he's faster than the Red Bull in Sector 2. So look to see that gap, that 0.5 seconds drop drastically as they come into Sector 2 now onto this straight, this short shoot down here into the next set of right-handers begins Sector 2. And as I have said, look at Wrathful. He is all over the back of SF.
He is just showing him the nose.
He's showing him the nose. He's trying to say, look, bud, I'm here. I'm faster than you. Just do us both a favor. Move out of the way. But it's probably not going to happen if I know SF1 Rhodes.
No, but if he can avoid doing what he did there at turn 6, that will be a very big benefit to him. Obviously, he's running a bit more downforce than the Red Bull is at this stage. As MRC Loki has actually closed in just a little bit on top of Whitney since the last check on it. It's down to 4.0 seconds from 4.7.
But Loki has left Get Me My Pipe behind. He's put almost 5 seconds in between he and the Racing Point, and like me or not, has gained over a second just on this lap on that Racing Point. So Toro Rosso has really got their car set up for the wet. Not sure what Toro Rosso did with Sainz's car. Unfortunate, Sainz started in P6, I believe. He's now all the way down to P12. Hopefully, Toro Rosso has some sort of a strategy in mind to bring him back toward the front. But Wrathful, again, made up a lot of time on SF1 roads throughout Sector 2, and then again lost all of it in Sector 3, as SF1 roads is now coming up to put, I believe that's going to be PPR Butters a lap down behind him. PPR Butters currently running 1 minute behind his nearest competition. Unfortunate for that Alfa Romeo driver, but good to see that he's still in the race and he hasn't just copped out and quit. Looking back forward not Ferrari, no. Like Me or Not has made up another entire second on Get Me My Pipe in just the first sector of this lap alone. So Get Me My Pipe's car is not handling at all the way it should be in the rain, and Get Me My Pipe has just picked up a 3-second time penalty. If I'm not mistaken, Like Me or Not has no time penalties, so that now puts the Racing Point down a place into P4, and it looks like that Racing Point is very soon going to get swallowed up by these 3 cars that are behind it. MRC Loki continues to make up time on I hope I'm saying this guy's name right. Toft of White Meat. I'm trying, buddy, but your name, sorry. He's made up he's made up 0.5 of a second on our leader in this lap alone. If he continues on this pace, it would seem that his car is doing much better in the wet than what it was doing in the dry. If he continues on this pace, we may see him battling for the lead at the very end of this race, but it looks like Tough to White Meat just a little faster than the Alfa Romeo in the final sector. Tough to White Meat able to pull out 0.3 of a second just then, but MRC Loki can now see Tough to White Meat as he goes through the first chicane. Tough to White Meat now as he goes through 3 and heads down for that long left-hander through 4. Let's just take a ride on board with the McLaren and see how this car is doing. Car's still just a little touch understeery. Hopefully at his next stop he'll do something possibly with the front wing or maybe even the diff to try and remedy that, make that car turn in just a little bit better for him. I feel like he could gain some more pace out of that McLaren. SF1 Roads has now gotten a lot closer to Like Me or Not as well. Like Me or Not has not made up much time in the past few laps on that Racing Point in front of them, with the Racing Point continuing to lose time to the front 2, P1 and P2, steadily pulling away from the Racing Point, and the rest of the field, quite frankly, not having the pace to keep up with Loki or Tough to White Meat at this time. It could possibly change with a safety car and maybe some pit stop strategy that may happen later on in the race. These guys jumped on the inners around lap 6. Some of them jumped on them around lap 5. I don't think Ferrari that they're going to be able to get these inters to the end without them just completely screaming and going offline to try to find the water to keep the tires cool and within the nominal range. Expecting these guys to probably pit around lap 18 or 19. Is that your thought as well?
Thereabouts. I've been running along with Wrathful throughout this whole situation here, and both T and SF1 Roads have caught up to the back of Like Me or Not and Get Me My Pipe, and this has now become a four-way battle almost for the final podium spot.
Indeed it has, but remember, DRS is disabled due to the rain on the circuit, as we see Like Me or Not and SF1 Roads both moving offline a little bit there, just trying to bring some water up into those tires. These tires do work better with a little bit of water in them. They do displace quite a lot of water. They don't displace the amazing amount of 61, is it 61 liters or 61 gallons per second that the wets do. But they still displace quite a bit of water. These tires may start to have temperature issues here within the next 3 to 4 laps as they continue to run on this really what has become a single line racetrack. As you can see, the very dark area of the racetrack, that is what is referred to as the racing line, and the longer they stay on that, most likely the hotter the tires are getting. So expect to see a lot of these guys starting to move off of that racing line down here on the straightaway to get into some of that more wet. As you see Like Me or Not doing it a little bit right there. We may see him do it some more. He's getting off that and getting into the more damp section of the track, trying to bring those tire temperatures back down. That may be part of the reason why he's lost some time to get me my pipe in front of him, having to cool those tires off. But get me my pipe, definitely not having the pace that he showed earlier.
Well, it's not so much a temperature thing on that line, though. It's more of a it's a grip thing with the temperature thing. That dark line around the racetrack is going to be where it's rubbered in, where it's running in the early parts of the race as well as qualifying. And that's actually going to have less grip on it in the rain than the grayer parts of the track because the rubber is filled in the spots between the cracks in the asphalt. Asphalt is itself not actually smooth. We say it is, but it's not. And around here, especially down in the turn, when you see that very dark black patch of asphalt, that is going to be basically smooth with the rubber that's filled in from the tires. And if you actually get offline, you'll have a slight bit more grip, not to mention the tires will stay a little bit cooler. So realistically, the track itself across the surface is the same amount of dampness, but it's more of a who has more grip based on where they are on the track. So running slightly offline through the corners and down the straights, it's going to generate a little bit less heat as well as giving you better grip when you start to brake and corner.
Well, thank you for clearing that up. As you can see now, the Red Bull getting very close to the sister car of the Toro Rosso. SF1 Rhodes really looking to put a move on Like Me or Not, because SF1 Rhodes, the closer he gets to Like Me or Not, now has the Pink Panther, the Racing Point Force India of Wrathful all over his gearbox, as it looks like we do have a pass, and he's going to try to make the move down the straightaway before the braking zone. Looks like he's going to get it done. Like Me or Not going to fall in behind him as Like Me or Not gets pressured from behind from the Racing Point. Can Like Me or Not pull off the double move and get back by SF1 Rhodes? Doesn't look like he's going to be close enough, which is unfortunate for him. Looks like he might lose out this position and fall to P6 behind Wrathful pretty soon, as the Toro Rosso seems to be falling off in pace. Now remember, these guys have been on these tires. Some of them have been on them for up to 9 laps already. MRC Loki in second, who has continued to eat into that lead that Tofta Whitemy in the McLaren has over him. He has continued to eat into that lead by a few hundredths every lap. Has PPR Butters looped it going through 3 and 4?
He has, and he is out of the race. So
and he's brought out a safety car.
We have a safety car.
That changes everything.
That really does change everything. Everybody should dive into the pits here for a new set of intermediate tires at this stage, and that will equalize the field a little bit. Slingshot gets a penalty for speeding under the safety car there, a bit of a clumsy penalty for the Mercedes driver, a bit far down the field in 8th place at this point.
So to our many, many people that are watching currently, I see we do have quite a few viewers tonight. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for turning out to watch round 15 of Breakout Racing League's Formula 1 Tier 3 division. What a beautiful season it has been so far. 15 rounds, 3 races each weekend is going to make up for a lot of racing for us drivers and commentators to be a part of. It's been a fun season so far. Not sure what the championship battle here in Tier 3 looks like due to the fact I'm not actually in the Tier 3 chat. So I cannot see exactly what that lines out to be. Hopefully somebody that is watching, Maverick, I see you in chat, let us know who the championship leader is right now. Give us a quick rundown in chat of what it looks like in the championship standings right now. Or if you want to, join my party. Since we're under safety car, we could have us a guest in the parties. If you'd like, go ahead and give us the rundown of the championship standings. Ted Kravitz for the night. And the Toro Rosso went to make the move into the pit lane, and then the Red Bull decided he was going to do it after the Toro Rosso was already on his inside. So the Toro Rosso has just made a cheeky move and picked up a position before they made it into pit lane. So what is that going to do? What is that going to do for this race? He did not pick up a penalty for that move either, and in my opinion, it was a legal move. He was there, he was next to the Red Bull, and then the Red Bull decided, hey, I want to come to pit lane, but there was no room for it. Oh, and Like Me or Not now coming out behind SF1 Rhodes, so he must have held the clutch in to allow him to get by. So good on Like Me or Not, giving that position back to the Red Bull. As it stands now, it looks like everybody is diving into pit lane. Slingshot did not. Slingshot has opted to stay out. Not sure what he's thinking about doing on those old inters. He's been out there on those tires for 9 laps now. By the time he gets back around, it'll be on 10 laps, unless he believes the safety car is going to be out for another lap or two. He'll dive in this lap and have a little bit fresher tires than everybody else. But we'll see what happens. So currently, let's take a look at your biggest movers of the race. There we go. All right, so your biggest mover of the race so far is going to be Slingshot, the driver we were just talking about in the Mercedes. He has made up 6 positions so far in this race. Your other big movers are Sexy in the Williams. He started all the way down in 15th, I believe. Or no, excuse me, he started down in 12th. He's made his way up to 7th in the Williams. So Williams, thank God it's a virtual car. They wouldn't be able to do that in real life, unfortunate to say. Up here in 2nd, MRC Loki has made up 5 positions from his starting spot of 7th. And Tofta Whitemeat made that mega move down into turn 1, started in P4, and see, this is where I wish that I could somehow cut and make replays and put them live into the stream. What a mega move that he made into turn 1. He got a great start from the grid, had 0 wheel spin, and took the perfect gear ratio to get down that straightaway, kicked it into all the different party modes to challenge SF1 Roads and Get Me My Pipe and MRC Loki into that turn, and he was able to get past all of them to take the lead of the race. Very remarkable move by Tofta Whitemeat, and he's had a very commanding lead so far. He'd been maintaining that gap at about 3 seconds. So we'll have to see what he does now. He's going to have a lot of pressure from MRC Loki right behind him. But another thing to think about is the tires. They are on inters. It's a much different driving style that you need to have whenever you're on inters versus whenever you are on a dry compound, even the hard tire. It's much different driving and a much different throttle application and braking application that you must have. Slingshot, let's see, he still has not made a pit stop. He had a drive-through penalties. Has he served that Ferrari now?
I honestly don't know. I didn't see whether he did serve that or not.
You would think that McLaren would pull him in after he served the drive-through penalty, because I'm sure the safety car is going to have to come in after this lap.
Yeah, you would think so. The pack is going to be bunched up at the end of this lap, so the the safety car should display the message of coming in. So a bit of a peculiar move there in the McLaren squad.
I do believe that Mad Marlin is actually back in that Renault. I believe the pole sitter is back in his car, ladies and gentlemen, and he is going to be catching up to the back of the pack. If he's able to stay in that car and not have any connection issues, it's going to be very, very fun to see what this driver can do. Not 100% sure if he's in that car or not. I can't tell because of the throttle application. I'm not sure if he's actually in the car or not. I want to say he's in the car, but I'm not sure. But the safety car is coming in this lap. Ferrari, do you think he's in the car or not?
I don't think he is, just based on the throttle application, the fact he's in the second ERS mode, whereas everybody else, well, a few guys are out of 0, but it's a bit difficult to tell.
Look at Sexy back here. Look at Sexy back here in 7th. Speaking of ERS mode, Sexy's sitting in the highest deployment mode you can possibly be in. So is he about to look to make a huge move down here into turn 1? We're about to go green flag racing once again, and look at Tofta Whitemeat stacking them up down here before they get into the penultimate braking zone. Tofta Whitemeat now starts to take off. Now he's going to jump into full throttle and make that run down here into the final turn. Gets a little bit of oversteer, so he did make a bit of a change to that car. The front end gripping a lot better through that turn. Anybody that's watching right now, give us a prediction in the stream chat. Let us know, do you think there will be another safety car? As it looks like we've got a move back here. SF1 Roads all over the back and getting in my pipe. SF1 Rhodes looked like he was pushing the Racing Point down into that first chicane as Henchman has made a mistake. Oh, and there's a big crash at the back. Big crash. The Haas has been involved with signs. And it looks like Mad Marlin also involved. Canada King also involved. A 4, possibly 5-car pileup here coming out of the first chicane. It looks like everybody's able to drive away, so that's not going to be another safety car. Dadgum, that's unfortunate for those 4. And it's also unfortunate for us because another safety car would have made this race even more fun. But unfortunately...
It is unfortunate for them.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're all going to have to go back to the pits.
Canada King. Yeah, Sides, Canada King, and Marlin definitely have damage. I'm still.
Oh, and now Sides out of the race.
I
just caught that Canada King. He was next to Canada King. Canada King shoved him out into the wall. What is that? 4, 5, 6, 7. So on the run down into turn 8, Canada King was on the inside and shoved him out into the wall. I believe that might bring out a safety car because of where that car is sitting. I can't be 100% sure, but it looks like it might. But look at the front of the pack now. All these guys within about 3 seconds of each other, all the way back to 7th place. It is very close. Slingshot has Big Mr. Brown all over the back of, and Slingshot now finally making that run into pit lane. Not sure what Mercedes is thinking, having him stay out this long. That's really going to cost the Mercedes driver, and it's not going to help him at all. He should have served that drive-through penalty and then gotten his service. But one thing we didn't think of, as Like Me or Not is making a move on Rathful, and Rathful able to stay on the outside and is able to carry more momentum through the first turn and get past the Toro Rosso. This is going to be the closest battle on track, as Sexy is now coming up behind Like Me or Not, looking to make a move on him as well. Like Me or Not, unfortunately not doing as well in the rain, as it seems like the rain is getting a lot harder, just from my point of view. And there we go. Like Me or Not has made another mistake. That's going to bring Sexy right back up onto the back of the Toro Rosso. The Toro Rosso really not handling as well as it did on the first set of enters, so it's unfortunate for him. Back up at the front, Tofta Whitemeat has pulled over a 1 second margin, a 1 second gap over Loki in the Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo really needs to try to give their drivers something so that way he can get back up there and fight Tofta Whitemeat. As it looks like Sexy's looking to make a move. He's going to try to go down driver's left, but he's not close enough. He's going to back out of it before they get into the braking zone. And he almost runs into the back of Like Me or Not. He has to get hard onto the brakes and almost lock up and turn lock left to avoid the back of that Toro Rosso. Some of these cars are not doing too good right now for RNF.
No, it seems like a lot of drivers are struggling with these wet conditions out there right now. This place is very difficult in the wet. It's difficult to drive, to be honest. It doesn't look like a very complicated circuit, but it really is when you get down to the nitty-gritty with parts of the corners. Lots of people suffering with understeer in these wet conditions, as it seems. They don't oversteer on the exits.
It looks like the McLaren driver at the very front of the field may have made a mistake. We'll look up here with him and check on the condition of his car. It looks like all parts are there, but look at that Alfa Romeo. He has snuck up onto the back of the McLaren. The McLaren unwittingly allowing the Alfa to get very close to him. Let's look at the deployment. Currently, Loki has a little bit more energy than what Tofta Whitemeat has. So this could just be a pace difference. Tofta Whitemeat could be beginning to struggle with his car in these wetter conditions, as it does seem to me, Ferrari Nut, that the track is enduring some heavier rain right now. Loki getting closer and closer to the back of that McLaren. A little further down the field, Sexy is still all over the back of Like Me or Not, as Like Me or Not gets out onto the curbing just a little bit. Small mistake from Like Me or Not, very easily made when it's wet. Sexy trying to get close enough to make a move. Slingshot has come back. Oh, he just went in and served his drive-through, Ferrari Nut. When he went into the pit lane, he didn't get tires. He served a drive-through, and he's still out here on these same enters.
Yeah, I gotta wonder why under the safety car they didn't go ahead and jump on in and get those inners off and change it out before that was gonna happen, because that really didn't gain him anything to not do that.
Yeah, he could have come through and gotten the tires, and then once it went back to green flag, he could have ducked in immediately and served his drive-through and came back out on track and probably would have been a good ways behind, but he might have been in a bit better situation than what he is now. Now he almost has to make these 13-lap-old inners make it all the way to the end.
He really does, and it's kind of just made a bad situation worse for the Mercedes driver here, versus coming on out in clean air after starting that drive-through with fresh tires versus what he has now. So it's really just made a bad situation worse, really.
How about Get Me My Pipe, SF1 Roads, and Wrathful? Currently, SF1 Roads in the Red Bull is in a Racing Point sandwich.
He really is. Get Me My Pipe not able to draw away from the Red Bull as I'm sure he would like to do at this stage. And his teammate not too far behind. This car is really not seem to be suited to the wet conditions tonight, as we have a yellow flag in Sector 3. That will be for, looks like Marlon has DNF out of the race. He is in the pit lane at this stage, so I believe he has just called it a night after having some connection issues.
Can't really blame him either. Oh, as the Racing Point he braked a little bit, a lot of contact there throughout that corner. SF1 Roads outbraked himself just a little bit, gets into the back and Get Me My Pipe. And as Get Me My Pipe and SF1 Roads were trying to recover their car, Wrathful said, "Thank you, I'll hit you in the side pine and go on through."
And Rhodes has picked up a little bit of wing damage. He's lost the right front end plate off of that Red Bull. So that will be hampering his previous performance as we go on through the last 6.5 laps of this race here.
But now that Wrathful has cleared SF1 Roads, he'd been stuck behind SF1 Roads basically all race. Now that he's cleared him, can he clear his teammate as well, as the Renault sits there on the exit of pit lane in a very precarious position? Not sure why that car came back out on track and stopped there. Not a good thing. Hopefully Codemasters will rewrite that programming for the new game that releases very, very soon. I believe it's coming out in June or July. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
I haven't looked myself, so I have no idea, so we'll go with that.
Well, hopefully that's something that Codemasters has fixed into the next game to where we could actually go in to the pit lane, hit the retire button, and instead of the crew servicing you and sending your car back out as an AI and screw up everybody else's race, they just come out and back you into the garage. That would be a good way to eliminate some of these issues that we've been having in league racing throughout Breakout Racing League's many seasons of racing since her birth. But currently, up back at the front, MRC Loki has lost quite a bit of time to our leader, the McLaren, steadily pulling away now. MRC Loki was only 0.4 of a second behind Toft of White Meat, but he's now fallen to 1.8 seconds behind the leader. And Get Me My Pipe is slowly losing time to them as well. It looks like we've got a battle going on back here for 6th, Lightmere or not, and Sexy going at it down into the heavy braking zone into Sector 3. It looks like Lightmere not was able to hold off Sexy one more time. Will he be able to do it throughout 6 more laps to finish this race? SF1 Roads, ever since he got that wing damage, he's been running wide on exit quite a lot. With the wing damage on the front of that Red Bull, but he's still showing good pace. He's still within half a second of the car in front of him as he looks like he's getting close enough. He's sticking his nose out there, but he's still too far back. Get Me My Pipe and Wrathful currently fighting it out for the final podium position, but at this stage it looks like Get Me My Pipe has it more in control than Wrathful or SF1 Roads. So we started this race with 16 drivers. It looks like we're going to end the race with about 11 drivers. Canada King currently bringing up last of the drivers on track. Not too far behind his nearest competitor, Henchman. Not far behind him at all was Slingshot, 42 seconds up the road from them. So Slingshot really just needs to nurse these very old enters all the way home to the end of this race. up here around 6th, 7th, and 8th. Pretty even spacing between all of them, and Slingshot picks up a penalty. You can see on the bottom of your screen. Like me or not, has a 1.6 second gap between he and SF1 Rhodes as Sexy closes up on him again, and Sexy looks like he's beginning to pull Big Mr. Brown up with him, so possibly the second McLaren may be looking to make a move on Sexy here before the end of this race, as Wrathful still very close to his teammate. He hasn't lost touch with the other Racing Point drivers on track today since he's been able to see him again. Not sure exactly what's going to happen. They come out of the final turn, they make the run down the straightaway. I believe Wrathful is going to be too far behind his teammate. He is well down on the straightaway, and it doesn't look like he's going to have the pace to catch him on this lap. He's really got to hope that the driver in front, his teammate, makes some mistakes that he can get through. Ferrari, who are you watching on track right now?
Currently, I'm watching MRC Loki, who has cut the gap down to race leader Tough White Meat to just 1 second from 1.7 a little while ago. I'm not sure if White Meat made a mistake or if Loki is just starting to pick up the pace a little bit here with just 5 laps remaining in the race. He is getting closer to the McLaren all the time up the front.
Loki has had those little spurts of pace all day where it seems like he's just kind of leveled off. He's not really going to catch Tough to White Meat. And then out of nowhere, we see him make up time. It's Get Me My Pipe is retired! He's binned it into the wall! That's going to be a VSC, possibly a safety car if anything else happens right there in that corner. Let's see if we can find somebody going through the area. Looks like we're not going to be able to. Looks like he binned it on the exit of 9. A very tricky chicane. Or it's not really a chicane. A tricky set of double lefts to get right whenever you are on the power. When it's dry, it can catch you out once your tires start to get a little bit of wear into them. But on the wet, my goodness, it's a handful to get your car through that set of left-handers. Surprised he's the first driver to lose control of the car and put it in the wall there, to be honest. So that promotes his teammate Wrathful up into the podium positions. Wrathful currently running third, MRC Loki in second, and Tofter Whitemeat running first in a commanding lead so far. 1.2 seconds clear of the Alfa Romeo in second, and the Alfa Romeo has a almost 8-second gap between himself and third. So the front two could really just throw their cars into cruise if they had some sort of gentleman's agreement and stay where they are and not have to risk their cars at all for the rest of this race, because there's no possible way Wrathful can make up 7 seconds on MRC Loki with only 4 to go, as SF1 Rhodes continues to run very wide. You can see it just there in the bottom of your screen. SF1 Rhodes really struggling with that car now that it has that front wing damage. Like me or not, beginning to catch the back of SF1 Rhodes ever so slightly, and Sexy still running around behind Like Me or Not as he is trying to catch him, and Like Me or Not makes a mistake, gets a little bit of oversteer and lit up the rear tires coming out of turn 8 through 9 and 10 now. The last time they came through here, there was a Pink Panther against the wall missing some suspension. It's no longer there. The marshals have removed it. It looks like Sexy's still too far back to try to make a move, but Canada King and Henchman fighting it out, and it looks like Canada King's going to put it off into the wall, and he has now gained suspension damage in the first chicane. Unfortunate for Canada King to put that car off. It looked like there might have been contact between he and Henchman. Correct me if I'm wrong, but those two are father and son. Father and son action on track causes one of them to go out. That's gonna be a weird conversation at the dinner table. I've been waiting to say that all race.
Indeed, it will be. I'm not sure if they are or not, but definitely if they are, that will be a very awkward family dinner tomorrow night. Well, son, what did you do yesterday? Well, I put you in the wall. Or vice versa.
How was school today? Oh, well, you know, I told all my friends how much of a dill hole on track you are.
Indeed.
Back up to the
back
front.
at the front. The gap has stabilized between MRC Loki and Tough White Meat at 1.0 seconds for the last few laps. It seems like through the first part of the second sector that Loki gains a little bit, but then White Meat gains it back to the second part of the second sector onto the back straightaway. So I think it may just be conflicting driving styles there that are allowing for that fluctuation between the two, because they really haven't closed or pulled away, respectively. So we kind of just have this hovering 1.2 second gap that is just perpetually perplexing us as to what is going to go on at the end of this race, with only coming down to 2 laps to go this time around. Only 9 cars left in the race, most of them within 16 seconds of the lead, and a couple outside of a minute.
And this is usually not one of those tracks where it's a race of attrition for us drivers. This is usually a pretty straightforward track. When it's dry, however, you sprinkle a little bit of water on this track becomes very treacherous. As we were saying, you can see on your screen right now, there's basically no gradient at all to the track. The water has nowhere to go. So the only way that this track dries is by these cars doing 180 plus mile an hour in the wet, in the rain. With all the downforce that they make, it throws the water up behind them into the air on the driver behind them, and the driver behind them clears water as well. That's the only way to get the water off the racing surface here. So these drivers really racing in some treacherous conditions on one of the most treacherous tracks when it rains. Like me or not, now has Sexy all over him. Look at this battle. These two have just been getting closer and closer and closer. Did you drop your controller again? You drunk?
Yep. Yes, that makes that. I'm up to about 5 times just sliding off my leg into the floor. So
Sexy putting his nose in there, looking to make a move, forcing Ferrari not to take a weird entry line that causes him to go wide. Going through 9 and 10 now, Sexy all over the back of the Toro Rosso, really wanting to put that Williams up in front of the Toro Rosso. Big Mr. Brown having a great view of this action as it looks like Sexy may be able to make a move this time. Had a little bit of wheel spin coming out of that turn onto the straightaway. He's close, but no cigar. Too far back as it looks like me or not has outbraked himself by just a little bit, as they both go side by side through there. Like me or not with a little bit of oversteer, but like me or not still on the inside. They touch. There's contact as the Williams tries to force like me or not to take it off line, and he did. That's going to give the position to Sexy. Very, very hard racing between the two of them, but I have to say from a driver's standpoint, that was pretty clean. Now like me or not, oh, he gives him a big shove.
Oh, wow.
That's going to put Big Mr. Brown through into 5th place. So like me or not, did he not feel like he was treated very well by Sexy and decided, hey fella, I've had enough of your crap?
I mean, that's a bit like cutting off your own nose to spite your face right there. He gave him a shot and then ended up losing another position to Big Mr. Brown anyway there. So that's a bit just, as it appears the rain has stopped and things are going to start to dry out here on this last lap. But that's just a bit like cutting off your own nose to spite your face, as the gap at the front has come down to just half a second through Sector 2. Are we going to see a last lap lunge from Loki here on Lightning?
Has Loki been saving his tires for this very moment? I'm not sure he has, to be honest. I think White Meat made a mistake. He's seeing the top step on the podium in front of him on his screen, and it's got the jitterbugs in his belly, and he has made a mistake is what I'm going to put that down to, because MRC Loki has slowly been losing time to him ever since we saw that gap massively drop. I will say, though, that is not like me or not, to be a retaliatory driver, so I'll put that up to him just making a mistake. Maybe the stewards will see something different, have some radio communications that we don't know about. But Tough the White Meat, the man with the plan, he came into this race saying, I'm going to dive turn 1 as cleanly as possible, and I'm going to take this win from turn 1. And he leads all the way from turn 1 to the final turn with a beautiful race. And he loses out to MRC Loki on penalties.
So all for naught there for White Meat. All for not trying to keep Loki behind there. And Loki is going to take that victory away at the death based on a time penalty. So once again here, time penalties playing a massive, massive role at Russia. Now we're just waiting for the last two to come around. So Slingshot has actually fallen back 2 henchmen on those older tires. He's on 12-lap older intermediates in the car behind. That is a huge, huge difference in tires.
Will the Mercedes be able to hold off the Ferrari-powered Haas throughout this final sector? It looks like he's going to try to make a move up the inside, but Slingshot... Oh, Slingshot gave it up. Slingshot's the final lap, buddy. You should have fought harder for that one. But it doesn't matter.
I don't think he's got the grip.
Points. Slingshot might get Henchman on penalties, though. I've seen Henchman's name come up quite a bit with penalties. Yes, Slingshot does get him on penalties, and it looks like Henchman and Canada King are going to be asked to go to the stewards' briefing room after the race. They will be in the stewards' room for that incident in the first chicane. But your winner today in the Alfa Romeo, MRC Loki, with a good race. He raced his own race, showed a lot of great pace here and there, and it looked like he just had it all put together today to catch the McLaren and beat him, but he didn't. He didn't have it on track. And is it possible that we just weren't paying attention as commentators, but the driver was and knew that the car in front of him had penalties, and all he had to do was stay within that time gap and was able to surpass the McLaren?
That is entirely possible. That is entirely possible, because with as much as has been going on in this race, and as drunk as I am, to be honest, it is entirely possible that we missed something.
Well, your top three are MRC Loki, Tofta Whitemeat, and Wrathful. All three of them with a beautiful display of driving today. Tofta Whitemeat making that beautiful move into turn one. As we saw him do, SF1 Rhodes is going to come home in fourth, bringing that Red Bull home with some damage. Sexy's going to come home in fifth. Everybody on track came home with penalties except for our winner today, MRC Loki, doing a great job to keep that car clean. So that makes me think Ferrari that he did know that the driver in front of him had penalties, and that all he had to do was just stay close enough within that 3-second gap to take that win. To the drivers, our podium finishers that are now joining my party, please make sure you hit that check mark box in the party so that way everybody can hear you. Just going down the rest of the grid, only had 9 finishers today. Henchman bringing up the final position. Slingshot bringing that Mercedes home from 14th into 8th, so a good race from him. Like me or not, loses 2 positions. Unfortunate for the Toro Rosso, and their other Toro Rosso did not finish. McLaren, Big Mr. Brown, brings home a nice, very heftily deserved 6th place, as Sexy started 12th in the Williams. He brings it home in 5th place. So a good race today. Are all of our podium drivers here? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yep, I'm here.
Yep.
Wonderful. We'll start with Wrathful. Wrathful bringing home P3. Did you think it was possible today? It looked like your teammate had the pace to stay out in front of you and everybody else that was behind you. It just seemed like your teammate had it all put together today, and then just out of nowhere we found him in the wall. And you were in front, and the SF1 Rhodes was behind you due to an incident that happened the lap prior or 2 laps prior. Walk us through that race. It started off dry, turned wet. How did you cope with the changing conditions?
Oh, I always love the hybrid. If any of these guys ever hear me in chat, all I ever say is bring on the wet, bring on the wet, bring on, because I like it just because it does throw in a lot of mix, and a lot of drivers aren't practiced on it, where I find I do better in it, so I don't mind the wet. So I was already hybrid set up into the race, but I didn't think I was going to do as well on pace as I did for just a random hybrid set that I said, this should work, do it, car, and it did. So I was happy to have pace comparable to my teammate, but I was just really upset that he crashed out. And that's not the first time that I've been following him and he crashed out, so now I'm messaging him saying, like, dude, can I not follow you? Do we have to swap, like, what do we gotta... Yeah, but I wanted points from him. I wanted him to get a podium.
So is that
but it's all
something?
good.
Is
I'm
that
happy
something
for the
that
points.
Force India is going to look into now? What you just said, that your teammate may have issues with you behind him. Is that something that Force India is going to look into, possibly to make sure that you don't end up behind your teammate? That driver swaps on track do occur.
I was content with leaving him with the position, knowing that I was happy with the points, and I figured I could hold off roads and we could at least score big points for racing point. But unfortunately, we got half of that today. But still got P3 for the team, and that's what mattered. So good for my champion standings. So that's all I can hope
Well,
for.
it was a good race for you today. You did very well. Just wondering how you're feeling about going into next week. Do you feel as confident at the next circuit as you do here?
It's all gonna depend. It's practice, and we'll see who comes down on top as usual. So
Well, how
I'm
do you
gonna
feel
put
about
in the time
Suzuka?
and see what I can do.
How do you feel about
I like
Suzuka,
Japan. I've done good results there, but for BRL, I feel like I need to brush up a little bit more if I want to keep up pace with some of these guys. So I'm definitely going to do a few more laps.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us in the party. Lovely race from you tonight. We'll see you next week. Moving on now to the driver who wanted on track but lost it due to time penalties. Led this race from turn one in that McLaren, making a beautiful move down the straightaway to get from P4 all the way to P1 in the braking zone of that first chicane. What a beautiful move that was from the McLaren driver. Tuft of White Meat, thank you for joining us. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, because if I'm not, I'm sorry. I've been saying it that way all night. But what a beautiful drive. When you crossed the line, I was excited as a McLaren fan, as a guy that really loves to only drive the McLaren car on this game. I was excited to watch McLaren have a startling start and an amazing finish. It seemed like you had command of the race the entire time, but you lost on penalties. Talk us through that race.
Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate how that turned out. But hats off to Loki. I couldn't shake him. He's got incredible pace in those conditions. The move down into turn one, I really wasn't expecting to happen. I figured, Rose was, going to go a bit deeper, and I was really surprised he broke so early. So I was like, oh shit, now I'm in first place. And then it was just managing the race from there. I got lucky when the safety car came out. I was able to get fresh tires. And yeah, just keeping it clean.
What made you decide to stay out that one lap longer than everybody else when it came to switching over to the inters? Because we saw a lot of drivers ducking in around lap 5, and I believe you didn't come in until lap 7. Everybody else behind you had already pitted. You were the only car still on track that hadn't gone in and boxed for that set of inters. I thought that the two drivers behind you, MRC Loki and SF1 Rhodes, were going to overtake you just by pit strategy, but you must have had an amazing in-lap on those softs. Walk us through what made you decide to stay out just that little bit longer for that pit strategy.
I think it's just, to be honest, dumb luck. I really wasn't paying attention to what everybody else was doing. I was just kind of focusing on myself, and right as I was like, these conditions are a little weird, then the strategy suggestion popped up, and I was like, yeah, it's definitely time to pit.
Well, sometimes Jeff does know best, I guess. I don't always agree with what Jeff has to say, but sometimes he does know what he's talking about. Tough to White Meat, I'm sorry that you couldn't win it through that penalty that you received. It was a wonderful race from you. Thank you so much for being here this week and putting on a great show. Just one more quick question before we move on. How are you feeling about moving on to Suzuka? You had a very commanding race here today when it switched from the dry to the wet, and we know that Suzuka is notorious for having rain involved in the race. Do you think that this is something that you're going to have to deal with next week as well?
I hope not. I really enjoy Suzuka. I don't enjoy it in the rain as much.
Well, I don't think many people do. It's one of those
confident.
scary tracks, especially going around 130R in the rain.
Yeah, it's just, in the rain you either commit or you don't, and that's where you gain all your time at.
Well, thank you very much, White Meat, for joining us. We'll see you next week. Hope that you have a great week. Stay safe out there, my friend, and get plenty of practice in for Japan. We'll see you at Suzuka. Moving on now to our race winner, MRC Loki. A beautiful drive from you today. You did very well managing your pace. Tell me, my first question for you is, did you know that White Meat had that 3-second time penalty and all you had to do was stay within that gap to take this win today?
Yes, I knew. I checked in under the safety car behind me and in front of me what the penalties were, and I didn't have even one warning. And I just thought, just try to stay behind him, don't fight, get into lean mix. Because if you fight in the rain and someone has a little slip, that could be dangerous. So don't risk anything.
Well, we saw a lot of drivers. We saw a lot of drivers behind you taking risks, and it did not pan out for them. I don't know if you guys were able to see it at all or even knew about it, but behind you, under that safety car restart, the pack came into turn 1, and they did not leave turn 1 as well as they came in. There were 5 cars involved in a large accident, 4 cars with heavy mega damage that had to pit. But it looked like all of you guys up front were just running your own race cleanly, and that was a very weird flex, by the way. That was a big flex by you to say that I didn't have any warnings whatsoever when that safety car came out, which is very unusual for this track. Usually every driver that comes to this track gets at least 1 warning throughout the race. You're saying that you finished the race with none?
No, not 1 warning. It's because of the rain. I just feel so comfortable in it and don't have any problems. I'm always for rain, so.
Well, congratulations on your win. It was a great drive from you today. Very respectable drive, and a very mental drive as well, playing that mental game of just having to stay behind him. Congratulations on your win. Moving on to next week, do you feel like this is pace that you can transfer from Russia to Suzuka? They're not tracks that are very similar, but they do have similar aspects here and there on the track. Sector 1 is very different, but Sector 2 kind of has an almost Russia feel to it. Do you feel that you may be able to kind of bring some pace from Russia to Suzuka and possibly see you on the podium or even the top step of the podium next week?
I think it depends on the weather. If it rains, I'm definitely have a big chance. If not, I'm always struggled at this track. I really love it, but I can't find the pace somehow. But I'm gonna train definitely, and because if I want a chance on the title, because the last 3 races, no points, so I need to win every single race.
Well, I will put this out there.
Big chance, but I try.
Well, yeah, we are all F1 drivers, but there are those drivers out there that will help another driver if they seek to help. So for anybody that's watching, do not be afraid to jump into the Breakout Racing League chat. If you feel like you need some help at one of the tracks, our Tier 1 drivers are more than happy to help some other drivers out, show them some pace, show them where they're losing it at, also help with setups. We've got some great guys throughout our Formula 1 division, throughout Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. It looks like this is going to do us for the night. Moving on to Suzuka next week, round 16. Make sure that you join us Saturday for the Formula 1 Division Tier 2 race, which will start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And be sure to tune in to Tier 1 after that at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. What will no doubt be an amazing race. Many of us drivers in Breakout Racing League absolutely adore Suzuka. God, I sound like I've been drinking too, Ferrari Nut. You want to pass one of them my way, my friend? But make sure that you also come back Monday to tune in for Breakout Racing League Tier 3 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. They will be racing around Suzuka. Hopefully it will be a dry race. Hopefully we might see a little bit more action, some more passing on track at Japan. But thank you for everyone that has come out and joined us. My name is BRL Alderford. Joining me is Ferrari.